She said, Peter Pan, that's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely. But since that day... Again, no. So, speaking of lost boys and lost girls, I was going to do a video on how to do a sorority beta tank this week, but because there's not much information out on it, and I seem to have successfully pulled off two by what I'm learning is pure magic. However, this little guy is going to his new permanent home tomorrow, so I thought he would be a good demonstration to talk about socialization of feral cats. There's a difference between stray cats and feral cats. A stray cat is essentially one who doesn't have a home. You can have a domesticated cat that you leave behind when you move, or who gets lost or gets taken from you to a new area, and when they're put down, they get lost again and they never make it home. That's a stray cat. They're essentially domesticated just without a home. Feral cats, however, do not want to be handled by people in any way because they haven't had the experience in it. They are essentially little wildcats in the middle of the city. If you can catch a feral kitten early enough, usually you can socialize them. And in this case, socialization is not just the learning of behavior in acceptable manners. It is how to overcome the feline's fears, essentially. And it helps them process that fear and earn or learn trust with humans. Once they learn that trust, especially at a young age, then it can evolve and they can become more domesticated. In fact, the most laziest cats I've ever had have ended up feral. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. When I was 11, that's when I started doing shelter rescue work, and I wasn't given a lot of responsibility right off the top, because why would you give an 11-year-old a lot of responsibility? I was given the opportunity to clean the cat cages at Petco and PetSmart that the shelter rescue housed cats in, and after I did that so diligently for weeks and weeks and months, then they decided that I wasn't just a kid messing around, that I was actually committed to animals on some level. And the long story short of it is, because I was younger, I didn't have a job, I just had school, and then I'd come home and spend time with animals for the most part. So I was frequently given the hardest socialization cases, or anti-socialization cases, because I had the time to spend with these animals and make them more adoptable. And generally when people are going and shopping, and some do shop, but not with shelter rescues, or when they're looking for a new pet, they want someone they can immediately cuddle, and that's great, but it's difficult. So I had to get the animals to that point to have that trust in humans, and it worked out for the most part. On occasion, there was 2 or 3 cases where I had a feral kitten, and they were young. They were around this little guy's age. Skylar, do you want to say hi to the few people watching this lovely video? So he's fairly young. He's about 3 months old, give or take. But I had 2 kittens in 2 separate times who were his age, and they were feral, but they were much, like, he's a scaredy kitten. He hisses still when I walk into the room, but as you see, no hands. He's actually quite content once I've picked him up now, because I've worked with him so much. And I can even get him purring when I love on him. If I walk into the room, he doesn't run from me. He'll like hide. He'll dodge under the covers of the bed, but he doesn't hide under the bed. So he wants to feel safe, but he still wants to get attention and not be alone. Now, because even though he was afraid of people, he has this overriding need to not be alone, to have company, human or otherwise. That really worked in my favor. With the 2 cases that I'm about to tell you about, they did not have this. The 2 cases were Monty Montague and Romeo. Now, Monty was an orange tabby, and he was found on Montague Street, hence the name. Romeo was a Siamese, and they were both individually so scared of the world and were highly aggressive about that fear. He's just a little shoulder angel. I'm making sure he's not going to jump on the rat cage behind me. Monty ended up just bonding with me, so he wasn't really adoptable. And that's the key to socialization. It's not only do you have to instill trust of yourself with the animal, but of people at large. So while I've been working with Skylar, once he let me handle him more regularly, I would intentionally invite people over who I knew were good with cats, to kind of pass him around in a very calm situation, so that way he could learn that people are trustworthy, not just me, and that's the key to socialization. So Monty just bonded with me, he stayed with me, it was fine. Romeo ended up doing the same thing. They kept each other's company, cool beans. But the point, or the purpose of socialization is to make them more amenable to multiple humans, so you don't have just a feral scaredy cat in your house. However, if you like a cat that plays favorites with you, then fine, that works out. But in general, you want them a little bit more socialized than that, because then they're cute with people and they don't have that fear that's been instilled in them because they were born in the wild, probably to a feral mom, who taught them in turn that level of fear and caution around humans. If they've been traumatized in any way with a human, it does make your job harder, but it's still possible to socialize them. It's always possible to socialize them for the most part. The 3 keys to it are: you have to have patience, you have to have time, and you have to have some really good treats. Now, cats are not as motivated by food as dogs are. Any kind of dog, for the most part, you can bribe with food, with any sort of treat, anything. Like, it's a dog, they love really good food, and you can get a dog to come to you, whether he should or not, based on food, and that's how you train a lot of dogs, is by treats. Cats are not so motivated unless they've been starving, and even then, if a truly scared feral cat is starving and the only food available is in your lap, they might just decide to sit there and starve to death. That's the difference between dogs and cats. We've domesticated dogs to the point where they are reliant on us, and they know it and accept it on some level, that cats are still deeply in denial about it, like it's in their DNA. That's ridiculous, but it is what it is. So if you're approaching your little feral or stray cat the same way you would a feral or stray dog, please stop now. It's not going to work out the same way. I had, he wasn't feral by regular means, but I had a cat who had been hand-raised by a woman since he was 6 weeks old, and when she died, her kids packed him up, and he'd been unbelievably spoiled. He was very, very gorgeous Himalayan, but they put him in the carrier, and he didn't react to that because he'd been to the vet before. He knew what that was. They brought him to our rescue group, and I brought him home, and he realized he wasn't going back to his home, to his owner, and he flipped. He made noises that I've only heard in the movie of Pet Sematary, and he disappeared under my bed for 2 weeks. He didn't come out for water, he didn't come out for food, he didn't come out to use the litter box. He was that committed. My mother and I were terrified that this cat was going to just die because he was in such denial and so scared about his surroundings that my brother Nick actually had to, and we have it on like old school VCR camera, a video of Nick doing a kind of Crocodile Dundee thing where he put on leather gloves, and this cat was declawed. He was an older declawed cat, but Nick put on leather gloves and used my cane to kind of scoot the cat out, and the cat really didn't like that, and Nick eventually caught him with the giant leather gloves. I don't know why leather is so hard to say today, and a towel, and I mean, like, the cat bit through the leather gloves, bit through his nail. Declawed didn't matter. The cat was scared and the cat was angry. But eventually caught him, wrangled him, put him in a cat cage, so he had to kind of deal with us. And we had to hand feed him very, very cautiously. And the only way that we could chill this cat out and get him reaccustomed to human life outside of his owner was my mother and I took turns actually sitting by his cage for like 2 hours a day and just talked to him or sang to him. My mom sang to him. I make jokes at the beginning of these videos about songs, but I don't have an actual voice for it. She does. And that was the only way that we could get him to tolerate us enough to decide to live. Like, this cat had to make the actual existential decision that life was worth living without his previous owner, his only mom that he'd known all his life. And he eventually went to a really good home, but God, that was, it took a lot of patience and a lot of work, and every case is different. Every cat has a different personality. There are a few baselines, like you need patience, you need time, and you need food. You need to make sure that their basic needs are taken care of. And that's really it. You just have to wait them out. It's best if you have that severe of a case, then put him in a cat cage, because he'll hide and you won't be able to get him again, and he can harm himself in that manner. However, if he was just like this little guy who would hide out of fear but still come out for food and water and stuff, give him a room. Give him one room. Doesn't matter if it's a bedroom or a bathroom. Try to limit the areas that he can hide and make sure that you can always kind of reach him in whichever places he hides. Like, don't give him an unreachable hole. That's just going to be a pain in your butt in the long run. But you feed him and you wait for him to come out for that food, and he'll associate you with fresh food and water. He knows you're safe because you're not attacking him. You sit there and he'll eventually come out and crawl into your lap and start purring. He's purring right now. I don't think the camera's picking, or the mic is picking that up. If he's getting into your lap and then freaking out really badly, I will tell you, he has, Skylar here still has his little collar from getting fixed because he was neutered recently. But the way that you calm a cat is by scruffing him. Now, come here, sweetie. A lot of vets actually recommend that you take like a, oh, what are those like thick binder paper clip things that you can also use for like bags, and clip it, and that kind of makes them freeze for a second and then calm, because the way that their moms carry them is by the scruff of their neck, and that would be right above their shoulder blades like this. It doesn't choke them, it doesn't do them any harm. In fact, it just makes them kind of chill. That's a really good way. It's a fast calming technique, and if you don't want to have to grip them the whole time, or maybe you're afraid of losing your grip, you can use one of those clips and you just clip it on really fast and let them kind of sink. They kind of sink down and go, oh, okay, this is happening. Sorry, he's playing with my earring now. But socializing cats, especially feral little lost boys and girls, can be difficult, can be arduous, can be heart-wrenching, and a lot of bloodletting can ensue. Just for the record, I have this little scratch, not from him, from a rabbit actually, who was super excited about going outside. But there's a good chance that you might end up shredded or with a few bite marks. I have a scar on the shoulder from when I was moving Monty out to an outside cage, and he got so wigged out that I was carrying him outside of his room because I was getting him used to my backyard, that he just went, ha! And his fangs went straight into my shoulder, and I couldn't drop him or he'd be gone somewhere in the house. So I had to keep carrying him until I got him outside, and then by the time I came in, my mom was freaking out because my shoulder was covered in blood. But superficial wound, and you know, they make band-aids for that, right? Honestly, just as long as you can spend one-on-one time with, in a quiet environment with the cat or the kitten, that makes a world of difference. The younger, the easier it is to work with them. Though you can socialize older cats, it's gonna take longer. It's gonna take more time. It's probably gonna take more treats, and you can try for toys, but they aren't gonna want to play until they can trust you. So yeah, I think that's about it. Skylar, Are you purring? He's a happy little boy. Oh, one more tip. A lot of feral cats may not trust you, but there's a good chance that they will love other cats. They trust one another. They might still be worried about territory, but in the long run, they'll probably trust another feline much faster than they'll trust you. So if you have another cat to socialize him with after he's used to you, do that. Now, if they react too negatively, pull them apart. Don't stress them out an unnecessary amount. But like Monty Montague was a cat's cat, I could throw any cat at him, and no matter how the cat that I threw at him would flip out at him, he would love him and just purr at the sight of another feline. And just figure out your cat's needs and help him feel safe. Help her feel like she is not going to be abused or mistreated, because that is legitimately all they're concerned about. That's why this dude is a little angel right on my shoulder. He knows he's safe up here. If he goes below my waist level, he starts hissing and growling. He gets scared because he's little and he knows it. But up here, he's fairly safe, fairly comfortable. He knows he gets loves. Yeah. If you have a new feral baby in your life, I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I can address them next week, where I will probably be telling you about sorority betta fish, or rats, or chinchillas, or snakes, you know, whatever.